So there was a clearing in a jungle, and there was a lion there, and he was just strutting around. He had this long, beautiful mane. He was a very big lion. And he was strutting around there in the middle of the afternoon, and a little monkey happened to come into that clearing. And as the monkey came into the clearing, the lion saw him, and he went over and he roared. And he said, "Who's the king of the jungle?" Little monkey quivered and shook. And finally he pointed his little finger and he said, "You are, almighty lion. You are the king of the jungle." That's right. So a little while later, this hyena came in, and the hyena came in and, laughing and having a good time. The lion went over to him, roared at him, "Who's the king of the jungle?" The hyena stopped laughing, started to quiver, and he said, "You are, almighty lion. You are the king of the jungle." Well, after a while, the trees kind of parted, and an elephant came into that clearing. And the lion went over to him and roared at him and said, "Who's the king of the jungle?" The elephant just kind of looked down at him and reached down and grabbed him with his trunk, squeezed him and squeezed him and squeezed him. His face turned blue. He threw him up against the tree. He slid down the tree. The elephant went over and stomped on him, stomped him again, threw him against another tree, and just calmly walked off into the jungle. And the lion laying there, battered, bruised, bleeding, he said, "Listen, you don't have to get so mad just because you don't know the answer." Now let's talk about bullies today. Bullies are those people or those forces whose weapons are fear, intimidation, and threat. At heart, they are soulless. At heart, they are lonely. At heart, they are without purpose. And it manifests itself only in trying to get recognition by scaring other people and getting other people to bend to their will. We know bullies, don't we? You've either known them in your lifetime or you know one now. And I want to tell you that bullies, almost without exception, when confronted with truth, will back down. Well, today we have in the Bible a story about such a bully. His name was Goliath. Goliath was a Philistine. He was a member of the Philistine army, if you will. And we had the two armies. We had the Philistine army, we had the Hebrew army. They were facing off against each other, not just for a day, for weeks, months. They never actually fought each other. They just yelled at each other all day. And one day, Goliath stepped forward. Now, the Bible says that he was a very large man. The Bible says that he was over 9 feet tall. Now, between you and me, I think sometimes the Bible exaggerates just a tad. I'm not a literalist when it comes to reading the Bible. I give it way more value than that. There's far more truth in the Bible than what just that printed word says. You got to dig for it. You got to get into it. You got to wrestle with it. But can we safely say he was a very large man? And it said that his armor was heavy. The Bible says that his armor weighed 125 pounds. He carried a spear. The spear was huge. The head of the spear, it says, weighed 15 pounds. He had an armor bearer. He had a servant that walked before him carrying his shield. He was a fearsome looking man. And he was loud, and he was boisterous, and he intended to put fear into people's hearts and minds. He was an intimidator. And one day he stepped out of the line and he started yelling. And he said, "This has got to come to an end. I challenge one of your people. One of your soldiers you pick to come out and fight me. And if you win, we will be your slaves. And if I win, you will be our slaves." Now, this just wasn't a one-time challenge. The Bible says this went on for days. And every day, this is what would happen. Goliath would come out, "Rah, rah, 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 rah. Who's the king of the jungle?" Well, it said that there was a dad. He had 8 sons, I believe. The 3 oldest ones were members of the army. They were there. And it said he had a younger son. The youngest son's name was David. David was a shepherd. While his older brothers were off at war, he was tending the sheep. And one day his dad called him and he said, "Son, I want you to go to the front lines and I want you to take this food to your brothers, a little care package, if you will. And I also want you to take this food to the commanders there. I want you to go." Okay. So he went. And when he got there, he delivered the food and so forth. About the time in the afternoon when Goliath stepped forward and started bellowing and his usual bully stuff, and David said, "What's going on here?" And his brother said, "Well, this goes on every day. And he's challenging somebody to come and fight him for a once and for all end to this." And David asked this question, "What's in it for me?" Now we have this notion in our head that David was such a sainted little boy, very faithful and godly, had about 15 bars on his perfect attendance badge at Sunday school. How many of you remember wearing those? Anybody? A couple. But he said, "What's in it for me?" And he wasn't doing it for God's glory. He wasn't doing it for some great holy purpose. No, he wanted to know, if I do this, what am I going to get out of it? Now I asked this question not once, he asked it at least 2 times, maybe even 3. And they said to him, "Here's what you get. If you go out and you fight Goliath and you win, here's what you get. Number 1, you get a big financial reward." Now we don't know what it was, but a big financial reward. Okay, cool. Number 2, you get to marry the king's daughter. Now, I don't know if this was an incentive or not. I don't know if this was a desirable woman in any way, but this was part of the package. You get to marry the king's daughter. And number 3, your family doesn't have to pay taxes. Now I can imagine his older brothers pushing him out there. And David said, "I'll do it. I'll go and fight it." So they said, "Nice." And they started bringing all this armor. They started bringing all these weapons. And he was so weighted down with all this stuff, he couldn't move. It wasn't him. It wasn't what he was used to. He didn't know how to use it, and he could not move. So he said, "Take all of this off. I'm going to go out and I'm going to confront this giant. I'm going to go out and confront this bully with the only thing I have." And he had a sling. Now, it's not this thing where you pulled it back. When we were kids, some of us can remember, and you this fork kind of thing, and shot BBs at your brothers. I would never do that, but I heard that it's just for this purpose. It was something that you put a stone or a projectile in, and you would swing it above your head like this. And I have seen in Israel this demonstrated, and get it going so fast, and then whack, and that stone comes out of there, and they are amazingly accurate. And this is what David could do. And so when he went and crossed the valley and crossed that little creek to get over there to Goliath, he stopped and he picked up 5 smooth stones. Now, it turns out he only needed one, but he got 5. And Goliath was going absolutely insane. This is what bullies do. Because here was somebody coming to challenge him, and he didn't quite know how to handle that, except for getting louder and louder and louder and more angry and more angry. This is the only thing he knew to do. And when he started getting out his sword and his spear and all the weapons that he had, David picked out this one smooth small stone, put it in his sling, wham, 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 whack! Right here in the forehead. Crushed his skull. And he fell dead. David went over and picked up his sword, and with his own sword, he cut off Goliath's head. And that day, he was victorious. Bullies intimidate with fear, intimidation, and threat. And how do we confront them? We are surrounded on all sides by what the Bible calls demons, are we not? There are demonic forces in our world and in our nation. We are surrounded by bullies, loudmouths. We are surrounded by purveyors of hate and racism. We are surrounded by an ongoing slaughter of citizens at the hands of young, angry people. You heard Susan refer to it in her prayers, El Paso. Do you not think this is demonic? Dayton, Ohio. And these are just the latest 2, all right? And we as people, as Americans, as Christians, just human beings, this is like, oh, it's today's shooting. Isn't it too bad that we have to add that word today's to it? This is today's, like it's common. How many mass shootings in the United States so far in 2019? So far, 254. We are surrounded by Goliaths of fear and hate. And we want to blame other people. We want to blame immigrants. We want to blame Muslims. We want to blame Jews. We want to blame brown-skinned people, black-skinned people. We want to blame people who don't have any money. We want to blame people who want to try to get here and seek asylum. We want to blame all these people. But who are doing these shootings? Almost overwhelmingly, it's young white men. Don't forget that. Don't forget that. Young white men. The hatred and the unleashed hatred that they're throwing upon us is like, it's unconscionable. Goliath is shouting and screaming every day, and we quiver. How do we go against this? By using the same tactics? No. How do we go against this? I'm almost kind of stuck, except for this story. Pick up what you know. And he picked up one stone, and he slew it, because this is what he had. Now, what do you have? What stones, smooth stones, do you have in your arsenal today? What is it? You might think I'm insignificant. I don't have anything. I'm just a poor little shepherd boy. I got nothing. You have something. What is it? Well, might I say that you have a story. You have a story. You know, sometime this fall, I've already spoken to a couple people about this and asked them to participate. On Sunday mornings, we're going to have a little series. We're going to have like at maybe 10 o'clock in the morning, 9:45, I don't know. We're going to get together, and one person a week is going to share his or her own personal story about how they came to be a person of faith, what their journey is all about, how they came to this church, what it means to them to be a follower of Christ. sharing our stories. You have a powerful story. You may not realize it, but you have a smooth little stone of your own personal story. Don't hesitate to use it. You have a small little stone of compassion. You have a small little stone of faith. You have a small little stone. And you might need to use all 5 of them in any given situations, but most of the time you only need 1 or 2. If you offer up a kind word, if you show us some sign of compassion, if you show something that means something to somebody, bullies will back down. And people will not only respect you, they will see Christ in you. Smooth stones. Smooth stones. You don't have to put on the whole armor of God. You don't have to weigh yourself down. You just got to say, God, this is all I have. And when the situation arises, I will use this stone. I will use this stone. Because bullies will not rule over us. Let's pray. Oh God, we do not know what we have because we think we are insignificant. Yet in each one of us, you have placed your spirit. You have placed your creation. You have made us unique. You have made each and every one of us more valuable than we can ever begin to imagine. When we gather together today, oh God, in a situation like this, in this room, and soon to come around this communion table, we move all of those things together, and no bully, no matter how powerful they might seem, can stand that kind of love. So we ask you today, oh God, to put gratitude in our hearts for who we are and what we have. And we thank you for Jesus. We ask this in his name. Amen.